What's going on YouTube? It's Mr. Ferguson here once again. Thank you guys for coming back for another video here in Central North Carolina. We are expecting some rain here. It is moving from west to east currently as the making of this video. However, I feel like it's going to get here so late I don't have time to change up this video to show you an application I'm going to put down. So I'll just briefly tell you here at my lawn, we're still struggling with some brown spots here briefly, just to let you know what the lawn's going through. We need rain. We haven't had a good rain. We had some major storms come through, some straight line winds and stuff. We got about half an inch, but it looks like this system coming from the west, we're really going to get some significant rain out of it possibly. And hopefully some of these areas that are stressed out should be able to recover with some natural good rain. So I'm going to try to put down a little bit of RGS, some biostimulants, some green kick, some CK, and possibly the rest of my Armada fungicide, which I don't have, but probably enough to be like a curative rate, not a preventative rate. Excuse me, a preventative rate, not a curative rate. So a smaller rate because I'm running low on it because of all the fungicides we were doing to protect what we had earlier this season. So that application will go down. I just don't have time to wait because I'm going to put this down right before the rain, hopefully, and the rain will water it in. I had the plan to make this video about Tenacity for over a week now, and it just so happens our good friend over at the Lawn Care Nut, or the Lawn Care Nut, Alan Haynes, sent out an email recently. If you're on his email list, you may have seen it. I have, from when Alan talked about it from his lawn care book, I have Tenacity here. So there you go. There is the bottle of Tenacity. I'm going to give you so I figured what I would do is, since Alan already, he worked with True Green a long time ago. He's into lawn care, warm season. He's dealt with cool season. I'm going to give you his information straight from the source of Alan Haynes. And then I'm going to give you, lastly, at the end of this, I'm just going to give you my opinion of Tenacity or slash Miso to let you know what my thoughts are. So we're going to, he does start in this email, and I may put some of that email. Let me stand over here in case I do put the email over here, some of it. But first, before I think we get into what he talks about, if you're very new to lawn care, there's two terms you need to know for sure. And if you don't know, we'll just quickly tell you: pre-emergent and post-emergent. Pre-emergent and post-emergent. Pre-emergent is when we put down an application of a liquid that is going to prevent a certain type of plant from coming up. We do prodiamine and dithiopyr, we talked about on the live stream, is a pre-emergent that stops, crabgrass, stops Poa annua. It's a barrier. So pre-emergent is a barrier on our soil to prevent things from coming up. Post-emergent, when we hear that term, that is when we have visibly, let's say, Poa annua, clover, weeds that are already up. They're not in the ground about to germinate. They've already germinated. We visually see them on the surface. So we use a post-emergent like Speed Zone 2,4-D. We're going to post-emergent spray it. It kills it and it dies. So that's a post-emergent herbicide. There's some that are pre and post-emergence. There's some that is just strictly rated for post. There's some that's strictly rated for pre. So that's the term. I just wanted to be sure we mentioned that. So the first thing Mr. LCN says is pre-emergent Miso for cool season turf, or mesotrione. So that is the, I think, active ingredient, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you can maybe see it right here if I get in here. Mesotrione, if I'm pronouncing it right. I always get it wrong, but that is exactly what Tenacity is. So it's the same thing. You can, just like you can buy Tall Star and it has bifin in it as the active ingredient, but it's called Tall Star. You can buy straight up just bifin. It's the same thing. Tenacity, when you hear Tenacity, it's Miso is what we say for short. It's mesotrione, or you can just buy the brand, the active ingredient, mesotrione. It's the same thing. Brand name versus generic, basically. So that's what that is. So he says for cool season turf, Miso is an effective tool, especially in the fall time when you may be thinking about seeding your lawn. That's because Miso is a pre-emergent herbicide that can be applied right alongside your grass seed, and it will help to keep weeds from growing and competing with your seed, but it will not harm your seed. This is a product that is safe to put down before or at the time of seeding, and it helps to eliminate it. It's a pre-emergent and a post-emergent. So number one, it goes and attacks the weeds that it's labeled to attack, to kill them off. So it just goes ahead and goes to work in that way. But pre-emergent wise, as your seed begins to germinate, if you put the Tenacity down at the time of seeding, it helps to stop weeds from coming up. It's a pre-emergent that helps the grass seed grow without weed competition beside it, as he said. He said the key here is that you have to apply miso before your grass seed germinates. If you apply once it's germinated and starting growing, miso will harm it. This is why I always recommend using miso as a pre-emergent with your seeding, and to apply it on the same day as you seed, then water it in. Don't wait. So there is a difference if you put, that's why on the big day, as I've labeled the videos on my channel, in my history, I call it the big day. It's where when I would do my aerating, then I would turn around and do my seed, then I would turn around and do my fertilizer, then I would turn around and do an RGS and Tenacity application, all on the same day. You don't want to wait 3 days for your seed to, or excuse me, 3 to 5 to 7 days for that seedling to begin to germinate, then do your Tenacity. That's when it says, and he shows the label, if I haven't put it here, he shows that it will then harm your seed. So be aware of that. Don't be like, what happened? It may have happened to some of you. You waited and said, crap, I forgot to put my Tenacity down the other day when I did my seeding. I need to do it now. Well, if it's already begin to germinate and you spray Tenacity at that point, it can harm the seed. So be aware of that. He goes on to say, miso will give you a good 3 to 4 weeks of pre-emergent protection, which is plenty of time for your new grass to get growing and begin defending itself. Miso is not a replacement for prodiamine or dithiopyr in established lawns. It doesn't last long enough and will not perform as well in existing turf. Amen. Very crucial statement right there. Always keep in mind the usefulness of miso as a pre-emergent is only in conjunction with seeding. Amen. Couldn't agree more. It is not, so you may be thinking, well, Mr. Ferguson, prodiamine's a pre-emergent, dithiopyr is a pre-emergent. Now you're telling me Tenacity and miso is a pre-emergent. Why can't I just put that down to stop Poa annua? It is not the same thing. The Tenacity / miso lasts, as he says here, 3 to 4 weeks. Then you got to reapply. Prodiamine, you can put prodiamine down to last 6 months. It is not the same thing. It is long-lasting pre-emergent. It is the way to go. However, we can't do prodiamine with seeding, because if we do it, it's going to stop the seed. It is a strong pre-emergent that if you do prodiamine the day that you do your seed, you're in big trouble, because now you've wasted all that seed. It's not going to pop up. You've put a barrier to stop it on top of the seed, so it's not going to grow. That's what's unique about this product, miso or Tenacity. You can put this guy down when you do your seeding. It will have pre-emergent for a short time, 3 to 4 weeks, but it also will allow your seed to grow and not hurt it. That's what's special about it. That's why everybody's using it fall, to try to prevent weeds and kill weeds. Or post-emergent for miso for cool season turf. So this is after seeding, after we've seen post-emergent controls. We just said miso is also effective post-emergent weed control, and if you purchase some because you needed it during your seeding project, then you probably have some left over. If that is the case, then go ahead and use it up. It will kill lots of weeds that you face, including dandelion and clover, and is also good on weedy grasses like crabgrass, goosegrass, creeping bentgrass, annual bluegrass. It does say specifically, because this is a major topic all the time, Tenacity is not rated to kill Poa annua. Suppress. Suppress means it will hinder its growth, but it will not wipe out and kill all your Poa annua. So before you even ask, know that. But it is rated to suppress it. And barnyard grass, it also does pretty well against yellow nutsedge. Just remember, if you are going to use it after you seeded, you need to wait 3 to 4 mowings or 30 days after germination. So if you put Tenacity down at the time of seeding, your seed begins to grow, you need to mow your grass, that new grass, you need to mow it 3 or 4 times before being able to apply Tenacity again. If you do it before that, you run the risk of hurting your brand new seed that you just planted. So be aware of that. I've always considered miso to be a specialty herbicide, meaning it's used when you have identified a specific issue in the lawn that miso can address. This goes back to those weedy grasses. If you specifically have issues with creeping bentgrass, for example, then purchasing miso is a good idea. However, if your primary weed problems come from broadleaf weeds like creeping Charlie, henbit, spurge, and plantain, then there are better, cheaper alternatives like Speed Zone, which contains 4 active ingredients instead of just one. In other words, miso isn't a general purpose weed control for the most part. It used in specialty situations such as when you are seeding or when you face a specific problem like creeping bent grass, which is a warm season grass. Outside of that, it's best to choose something else and save the money. I'll be talking more about this, blah, blah, blah. So that's straight from the LCN Allen Hayne, the lawn care nut. And that's mainly my thing. I think the one thing he failed to mention is that when you use Tenacity, it bleaches your grass. That's one reason I don't like using it, especially like in the falls, because many people have talked about the POA annua thing. So it's a pre and post-emergent labeled to suppress POA. So we've heard the question, Mr. Ferguson, so if I put it down with my seeding and then I wait and then I mow my grass 3 times and then POA annua starts popping up, can I just do more Tenacity? Why can't I do more Tenacity after that? You can lay down more Tenacity. And then now that you've already got your 3 or 4 mows in, 3 weeks later, you can do a 3rd application of Tenacity. But you're going to get that bleaching factor in your yard in fall. You're talking about in September, October, prime when you should be shining like a new penny time. You're going to have bleached white grass because of Tenacity. So to me, this is now my personal experience. I put down Tenacity at the time of my seeding. I'm going to be putting down Tenacity at the time of the seeding at our church lawn project. I don't want the weeds to come up with the new grass and choke it out. That's pretty much the only time I use Tenacity. So let's go back to what we've talked about previously on the live stream and previously before. There's another pre/post-emergent called ethofumicate. That is labeled to kill POA annua more so than the suppressed Tenacity or miso, and it doesn't bleach your grass. Ethofumicate appeals to me more because, like Tenacity, 2-3 applications are recommended in the fall, but it doesn't bleach your grass. And it's labeled not just to suppress POA, but to prevent it and to kill it if you do it the way the label says. Now, again, I did not properly apply the 2nd, 3rd application last fall. I had some POA annua. So it's still to be seen between me and Mr. Kevin and our test of ethofumicate as to whether ethofumicate is a strong candidate to prevent and kill POA annua, even in post-emergent in the fall. So that's just my 2 cents on Tenacity, and I call it a double agent. That's why we call these products a double agent, like ethofumicate and Tenacity/miso. They are pre-emergent to stop weeds. They are also post-emergent. But as the LCN said, when you're talking about broadleaves, you're talking about bleaching your grass to kill some broadleaves. Use 2,4-D. Use Speed Zone for those things. That's why we need to kind of try to do our best to identify what kind of weed is this. Is this something I want to use Tenacity for, or is this something I just can mix up some Speed Zone and go around spraying? What do I need here? Because to me, I hate the bleaching factor of Tenacity. And talking about, they've started putting it in starter fert, which is fantastic. Mr. Kevin used it, did great. And so as long as that seed gets started, then after that, I've never done a 2nd application of Tenacity. I don't like the bleaching factor. This is the one time in North Carolina, September, October, November, where my yard looks so good. I don't want to waste that time bleaching it with Tenacity when there's other products like ethofumicate that is labeled to actually kill POA and other weeds that may be more beneficial if you have the money to do it. Again, as we've said with the grass, you guys are your own lawn care managers. You're doing your own lawn. You're going to do what's best for you. You may have this and have it left over and say, well, I'm not buying another product, Mr. Ferguson, and wasting money. I've got this. I'm just going to use it and suck it up and have bleached grass. By all means, go for it. So anyways, I hope this makes sense. Thank you to Mr. Allen Hayne. Hope you don't mind me reading his information to you all. But again, he's got more experience in the field with different lawns and with Tenacity than myself. He's considered, quote, to me, a professional that gives more advice about this than I have. My personal recommendation is I love to use it at seeding. That's pretty much the only time I use it, and I save it for next year and next year and next year. And so this bottle is the original bottle I bought, which is a Group 27 herbicide, by the way. Let me mention that. But this is the same bottle that's probably halfway full that I bought in 2019. And it's still halfway full. I never use it. I don't need to. I use the Speed Zone for what I need to use, and I use the Tenacity at time of seeding to prevent weeds and to suppress POA at the time of seeding for that germination factor. So anyways, that's all. We'll cut it off there with miso, with Tenacity. I hope that helps. I've got other videos that you may want to check out on the channel history. Veterans, let me know more things down below, your thoughts, your comments. Sorry that we went 16 minutes, but for the new people, I want them to understand what this is and to kind of explain it a little more. And so we'll be showing off Tenacity/Miso in the lawn here soon when we do our seeding. So God bless you guys. It's starting to rain. Got to do my application real fast. Take it easy. We'll see you on Monday. God bless.